So going back to when you started, say 20 years ago, what do you think has changed from then to now?
From then to now, I think, look, when I started back then, um, things were a lot simpler. You know, you had nickel metal packs, brushed motors, and a speed controller, and that was it.
Does it? Yeah.
You know, it was quite a simple setup, and in fact, I would go as far as to say that the industry was more heavily focused on the nitro side of things than the
Yeah.
electric side of things.
I remember that.
Because nitro, you were able to achieve better results from a nitro
Hmm.
compared to electric. Um, the other thing that's changed, whilst now is obviously the other way around. The other thing that's changed is back then, a ready to run was considered. You know, if you saw a ready to run car on the shelf, it was a notch above toy grade.
Right,
You know,
right,
it
exactly.
was very basic. It was very simple. It was a budget entry level
Yep.
kind of like stuff. If you really wanted to get a proper car, you would get the kit and you would
Yep.
build it and you would paint it
Exactly.
and you would tune it and do it that
Yep.
way.
Hmm.
Whilst now the industry has flipped that completely around.
Yep.
The kits still exist, but I find that the kits are more for race people.
Okay.
You don't really get a kit for the average basher or for a
Yeah.
beginner. You know, if you still want to build a kit, the best that you can do nowadays is go down to Tamiya
Right.
and go for that nostalgia and build those old Hornets and grasshoppers and what have you.
Hmm.
Um, but if you want to build a kit like just an average, like a Maximus kit, for example,
Right.
it just isn't, that doesn't
It's
exist,
not there. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, for a middle of the road type of vehicle. So that's where I think the industry has changed a lot. And of course, brushless, you know,
Yeah.
when the introduction of brushless came on, I initially wasn't quite sure where that was going to go, but when you start to see the speed run guys being able to get, you know, 200 plus kilometers an hour, which is 100, 125,
Yeah.
130 mile an hour
Hmm.
plus on cars, and then you've got trucks that are now capable that were not capable before, such as the Creighton 8S and the X Max and the Outcast. You know, these are big cars, heavy cars weighing a lot of, you know, they got a lot of weight behind them, and they can easily break someone's leg if they hit, you know, at
Yeah.
speed.
No. No question. Yeah.
No question about it. So being able to have those sorts of vehicles at our fingertips and having them affordable as well to an extent, I think that's where, you know, it's changed the most in those 20 years. It's, yeah, quite different from what it used to be.
I totally agree. And like I said, when I got back into it after 25 or 30 years, it was a huge, update for me. And I sat on YouTube for a couple weeks just honing up on the technology and the terminology even. And it's really it's fascinating what I see. And I do miss the kits. I built all my old kits, my Kyosho cars. It was great sitting with my father, my grandfather,
Mm,
and it might have been a 12-hour day, and we're in the basement or a little workshop, and we're putting this little sucker together. And in the end, you felt emotionally connected to it. You know,
that's right.
I can hold it in my hands and say, "Wow, like this is really cool here," and I think we live in a society today too, everything's going quick and push notifications and, delivered by Amazon. It comes in on a drone, drops the product right on your front step, and people want things done instantly. And
It's a very different world today than what it used to be, where before I think the hobby was about the build.
yes,
Right? The RC hobby was about the build. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about building a car or building a plane or a boat or whatever. It was about the build. Being able to drive or fly that product, I
right.
think, was almost a byproduct of that experience.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
now it's like, I want to be able to drive it. And I can tell you this from working in a hobby shop, that there are a lot of people out there that have the money to buy these products, but they have no emotional connection or no responsibility for that product.
right.
Because what they do when something goes wrong, they'll bring it back to the shop, dump it on the counter, and go fix it for me.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's no more of that. Okay, let's dig around, let's find out what's wrong, what's popped out, what's broken, let's fix it, let's replace it, let's order the parts, and let's get this fixed and up and running again. They will
Right,
just
right.
go, well, I spent the money on the product. here's another $100, fix it for me, and I'll be back in a week to pick it up or whenever.
Right.
So, and then they go out, they launch it off a ramp again, they smash it into a tree, they do whatever, they break it, they bring it back again. And there's no, it almost feels like exactly what you said. Because there is no emotional attachment to that product, it almost feels like they don't have that responsibility to look after it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit sad in a way when I look
Yeah.
at it that way, because people will just throw money at the products. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll just upgrade it, and it's just upgrade after upgrade and spend money and dump money into it, as opposed to, hey, respect the product, learn how to drive, learn how to use it, learn how to fix it, and
Exactly.
you may actually have a different approach towards how you use it as well. So
Right. Yeah, it's rare today. I mean, it's funny. I was driving along the other day near my shop, and I saw this fellow with his little son that must have been like, I don't know, he must have been 2 or 3 years old. And the guy looked about my age, and it's definitely his father. And I'm driving my bug, and I turn around, and I'm like, he had an RC car in his hand, this guy.
mm,
And it looked like an old RC.
yeah,
So I spun around, and I said, "Are you RCing for real?" And it's right around here. I mean, to bump into somebody who's doing RC around here is rare.
okay,
And I pulled out one of my RCs. I was in the back of the Beetle. I showed him the little WL toys that I've been working on. And he had the Hornet. So he pulls out the Hornet, and of course, the thing's got to be 30 years old, as you know, when he used to
original
bring.
release.
Yep. And he's been wanting to show his son. And he's trying to get his son interested to say, okay, start wrenching on this. We can fix it. And I love that about it. I thought it was just classic.
Yeah,
The old days of, bringing your son. Like my grandfather was into model, airplanes. He was in a World War II guy. He fixed the bombers and the fighter planes in World War II in England.
okay,
And so he was great with his hands. So he was making, model planes for me and to fly. He had the controllers when we never actually flew them, but he made them all out of the balsa wood. He wrapped them and logoed them and did what he had to do. So I was involved in that, and again, like you said, it's something that's missing today. A lot of kids, or people, they might smack a car up and say, "All right, don't worry about it. I'll get another one," and they'll just plunk down money instead of fixing it. That's the fun thing about it. So sometimes when I get a new RC in, I just start wrenching on it anyway, just to check all the screws, check the
yeah,
suspension, because outside the box, they're not always tuned to your liking.
that's right. Yeah,
So get your fingers wet a little bit to feel the connection a little.
yeah,
It's not going to be like a full build, of course, but it's a good thing to, test it out. 'Cause like I said, the little WO toys I got, I just did a video recently on it where out of the box, the toe is way off. The diffs have no grease. Some screws are loose in the chassis. So these are things you can start on right away, even before you run the car.